This is going to be more of a question and answer session. No PowerPoint, sorry about that. But I did send the questions ahead of time, so hopefully you're a little prepared. We have 6 representatives from 6 of the major TV manufacturers here today. We have Tim Alessi from LG, Dan Schinasi from Samsung. Not in order of people sitting there, so please introduce or indicate who you are. Jim Sanduski from Sharp, Brian Siegel from Sony, there he is. Scott Ramirez from Samsung, and I'm sorry. Oh man, Toshiba. My apology. That's very bad. Slap me with a wet noodle. And Ben Verbraak. Ben Verbraak from Bang & Olufsen. Very good. So let's start with features. We've heard already something about features of TVs, of UHD TVs in particular, and I'm curious to know which features that you've introduced with your Ultra HD TVs are the most popular with your customers, at least as far as you can tell from feedback, retailers, direct feedback, whatever. Anybody like to start? Scott?
Sure.
Is this thing on?
Hello?
There you go.
I thought about this question a little bit, and for me it's a little bit of a strange question, actually, because I don't think features are the purchase drivers for UHD.
Ah.
I think the purchase driver for UHD is picture quality. People buy it for pristine, jaw-dropping picture quality. If you look at features in the industry, you have a litany of amazing features in 1080p models out there right now. Smart TV platforms, wireless interactivity, you know, all kinds of remote controls. Almost anything you want in a feature, you can buy in 1080p. Right? So yes, the UHD models have all these great features because they happen to be right now at the high end, but that's not the purchase driver. The purchase driver is picture quality. It's the same reason people bought HD when we went from SD to HD. They didn't buy HD for features. They bought it for picture quality. And people will buy UHD for picture quality. So I think that the feature is picture quality. And how do you get to picture quality? My point of view is that it's about the processing. A lot of people will share panels. A lot of brands will have inside a lot of the same panels or very similar panels. The ones that will stand out are the ones that have the best processing. Of course, we think Toshiba has the best processing, but you know, seeing is believing. But I think that's what it comes down to. What picture quality technology do you have to show a seeing is believing result to the consumer on the sales floor in their home? That's the feature that I think is important.
Excellent point.
Scott, I want to just build on that answer a little bit by saying I agree picture quality is the #1 driver. It's always been the #1 driver for TVs. But in UHD, when it first came out, there was a lot written in the trade about you only get a benefit of a UHD TV in ultra-large screen sizes. Otherwise, you have to sit really close to the screen. Mm-hmm. And that's really not true. Now that there are a wider variety of screen sizes out there, we just introduced a 49-inch TV. That I happen to have in my own home. And I sit about 10 feet away, all right, 9.7 inches, and
which is, by the way, the typical distance that people sit from their TVs.
And there is no question that I can see a difference from the TV I replaced, and not even with 4K content. So the processing that Scott mentioned is an important part of it. We can debate who has the best processing, and all of them are pretty good, but, except for LG's is a little bit better. But other than that, you can definitely see a difference even from that distance on that screen size. So the main point is that now there's a UHD TV for every room, and no matter what your viewing distance is, you don't have to rearrange your living room to get a benefit out of owning one.
Probably like to look at a slightly different angle. Bang & Olufsen, we think that picture quality obviously has to be excellent, and it is in any B&O TV, also in our new ultra-high definition 55-inch BeoVision Avant. But at Bang & Olufsen, we conceptualize the product, and we look at the customer needs and what is important for this particular concept. And actually, when we look at what is most popular with our customers, then the first and foremost is sound quality. Sound is half the picture. And it may be a little bit.
And is that's the most important feature amongst your customers?
It's one of the most popular features, especially with our television. It's also because a lot of, let's say, competitor products focus out on the picture, and we also do, but we focus on other things. We focus on sound quality, and we focus on flexibility of placement of the product in the customer's home, because people don't tend to put the TV in the center of the room, at least in our customer segment. And the third one is very important, is ease of use. One remote control, controlling and all the boxes that are connected to the TV. So it's about convenience, it's about flexibility of placement, and it's about sound quality. And obviously, picture quality has to be excellent, and it is at Bang & Olufsen. And it will be even better with ultra definition, but that is not the key point for our customers. It's about the whole concept.
Mm-hmm. Dan?
Expand on that a little bit. So I heard from some of the colleagues on picture quality, and first I'd agree with that. Picture quality, it's very important, but one of the features that makes good picture quality is up conversion. I mean, we're still in a day and age where a lot of the content we're going to watch is in HD.
That's exactly right. And Scott, you made the point first, I think, that processing. Right. And I thought the first thing that came to my mind was upscaling and conversion to, with current content, up to 4K.
Right, and there's different qualities of upscaling. And that's a very, very important element. But you know, there are other features. Some are common with our full HD brothers, but you know, features, design, you know, and all the smart features that really enhance the enjoyment of the TV. And for Samsung, it's also the possibility of having evolution. We want our customers to experience all the latest standards as standards evolve.
Mm-hmm. Jim?
For Sharp, with our UHD televisions that we have in the marketplace, you know, I'd just echo the comments about picture quality. You know, that is first and foremost very important to the consumer of an Ultra HD TV. And for Sharp specifically, what has been very popular for us has been our THX certification, which really is kind of a third-party endorsement in terms of our set's picture quality, not only in resolving 4K images on the television, but also in full HD TV mode.
Mm-hmm. Brian?
So from the Sony side, the pieces that I'll add to it are when we ask our customers what they're looking for, and when we look at what search terms people are using, it's interesting when they're looking at us. Sound, like B&O brethren here, is extremely important, and I think there's a much better appreciation in the marketplace right now, and an improved expectation that a higher quality sound experience is required. And if you look at the lineup that we've been rolling out since the beginning, we've embraced sound and made it more visual experience with actual frontward-facing speakers. And this year we introduced a different design to make a more elegant, hidden type of speaker. But another key feature that we have that we're seeing tremendous demand for is gaming. And as you look at how people are using their 4K televisions, gaming is an extremely important element to it. And some of the announcements that we've recently made around PlayStation Now and essentially integrating PlayStation games into your television. So all you need to do is pick up a PlayStation 3 or 4 remote and interact with your television without an extra piece of hardware is increasingly being demanded amongst our customers. So.
Well, that brings up the question of, rather technical term, input lag. Right? If people are playing games on their TVs, they need to have as little input lag as possible, and some reviewers are now starting to measure that. So I think you're right. Gaming is a very important element here, and so a feature, if you will. I don't know if you guys have started to specify input lag and you know, project that out as part of the specifications of the TV, but it seems to me that for that purpose, it would be an important one. The other one I want to get to, though, is built-in audio. You mentioned it. Bang & Olufsen is making a big deal about it. The question is, the audio system from TVs, on TVs, built into TVs, has been notoriously poor. I mean, you know, the thinner it gets, the less space there is for a speaker to actually operate and operate well. How are you addressing this problem? In your I know that Sony is, Bang & Olufsen is. I'd like to hear from some of the other companies as well. Or is perhaps you might think that the internal sound isn't very important because after all, most of these TVs are premium TVs. They're probably going to be used with an external sound system. So is the TV's internal sound really that important? Yeah, go ahead.
So I think sound is important to a point. Of course, it depends on your brand position. And I'm sure for the gentleman sitting next to me, it's more important for his brand position, or for the type of selling that they're doing. But in general, I think audio is important to a point. Because I think what people are looking for is clear sound and relatively full sound. But they're not looking for 5.1 channel surround sound built into their television set, and they don't want to pay for it. They understand in general that they can have a better experience buying a separate 5.1 sound system if they really want that experience. So I think what happened in flat panels is the needle swung too far to poor sound for a while. Mm-hmm. I don't think that the needle needs to swing all the way to the other side to this unbelievable level of sound that people actually don't want to pay for. I think it needs to fall back to the middle, to good, clear, full sound. And when they want the full surround sound experience, they're going to buy that full package. Mm-hmm.
We think sound is an important part of it as well. I agree that you don't want to add a huge cost burden on a TV.
Do we have the audio up on this mic?
For sound. I'll switch it to
Speaking of sound.
Anyway, I'll try to.
You shouldn't use an LG mic.
But that being, you hit the nail on the head. But that being said, we're trying to provide higher quality sound options for our customers. But one of the nice things about dealing with larger screens is it gives you some more room to work with sound. And so, for example, our UB9800 series, which is our premium Ultra HD series, we worked with Harman Kardon on the sound system. And we have 5.2 systems up to 120 watts, depending on the screen size. And it doesn't add hundreds of dollars to the cost, so it's going to provide excellent sound quality for those who just want the sound out of the TV. And obviously, if you want a more enhanced sound experience, a true 5.1 or 7.1, whatever, you can certainly add that on. But we think sound is a valuable part of the overall package.
Brian, I want to make sure you get in here because you brought it up first. So give us a little bit more about Sony's emphasis on the audio quality.
I just think it's, well, first thing we did was ask our customers. So, I mean, as TVs got thinner, consumers told us that they required a better sound experience. I mean, we saw the growth of sound bars came out of nowhere a few years ago, and you're starting to see an improved requirement on the sound bar business around higher quality 7.1 types of experiences on sound bars. But when you ask your customers, what their experience is, today's retail experience does not allow for many manufacturers to have a great sound experience on the floors, no matter what that investment is. So if you take a look at where customers are learning and how they're hearing about the audio piece, there's a lot of online reviews, and if you take a look at any of the online websites around how they're commenting around our 4K lineup, sound is right up there with picture quality. It rivals it as the #1 feature. And if you look at the design, we invented a new design this year, what we call the wedge, which essentially it's bringing physics back into the television, which is we create space so it appears to be as flat panel on the wall as possible, with a beautiful rolled type of bezel on the top. But yet we've expanded the airflow in the back of the television to allow consumers the ability to be able to have an enhanced experience without having the bulk of having a surround sound external speakers. And again, it all comes down to listening to the customer.
Yeah, I would say from Sharp's perspective, the way we look at it is that sound is half of the viewing experience. If you think about when you go into a movie theater, sound is a big part of the viewing experience. And we look at sound in our lineup of televisions as really a way to distinguish between series of products. So for example, in our full HD sets, in our top-end series, we build in a subwoofer into our television to give that kind of deep bass sound. And for our HD TV lineup, we build in an even more powerful subwoofer subwoofer, a 40-watt subwoofer. We call it a duo bass technology. So we do believe that sound is very important. There will obviously be those consumers that will purchase a separate sound system, to give that 5.1 surround sound system effect, or maybe use a simple sound bar. But there are still a good number of consumers who don't want to mess with that necessarily, and they just want to be able to enjoy a good sound to go along with the great picture of their television. So for that, we build it as really kind of a step feature within our line.
Ben, you had something?
Yeah, I'd like to add one more thing to that. I think it's important to realize that, like I said, sound is half the picture. It adds value to the TV, because the gentleman before us actually showed about the value chain, and also definition, sound is a good value driver, and the customers are requesting good sound. That's what we experience, and then I think it's a good way to offer it to the customers. And integrated sound, like we have a full 3-channel stereo system in the TV, actually cleans up the mess. It means that people don't have to think about external boxes. We have an integrated AV receiver in the TV. It cleans up the mess. It makes a very clean and neat product with a very good sound performance. So that's very important, I think, for a value driver.
Yeah, just,
Dan?
I'd like to express Samsung's view. So we also believe sound is very important, and we put a lot of attention into it, so it's not going by the wayside. It's an important takeaway to consider. It takes a few things to make good sound. You have to have good drivers. You have to have good placement of those drivers. I mean, and you also have to have good processing. So it's really the critical balance of all three of those elements which are going to determine good sound. So a lot of times you might not see elaborate, shiny speakers on the side, but the sound quality will be reasonably good. But you brought up an interesting point, and that's there's a significant amount of home theater installs that do use external sound, and at Samsung we work hard to make that better, and we're introducing TV Sound Share, which is a Bluetooth technology, to make it easier to connect with external audio.
I think the point was made that on the one hand, people want good sound, and the rise of the sound bar is an example of that. On the other hand, having a clean look, not having to deal with another piece of gear and interfacing it one way or another is a counterfactor. And so I'm glad to see that the TV manufacturers are thinking about those who don't want to deal with the extra sound equipment, even as little as a sound bar or as much as a 5.1, 7.1 sound system, can get reasonable sound out of just the TV itself. It seems clear from the presentations we just saw that online streaming and downloading is going to probably be the early adopter way that content is actually going to get to these UHD TVs particularly. How are your products prepared for this in terms of apps, in terms of HEVC decoding, which is going to become important? For example, Netflix is showing House of Cards in 4K and UHD, but some TVs can't show it because they don't have the proper decoders. So what's happening now with that, and how quickly are we going to get to the point where it will be more universally available to anybody who buys a 4K TV? They'll be able to tune in Netflix and see House of Cards in 4K.
I'll start with that. Now,
go ahead.
My mic is working. I think our check cleared. So, all of our 2014 sets do include HEVC decoding, so we're ready to stream from Netflix and other applications as they become available. We demonstrated Netflix stream at a couple of our launch events for new series, and the good thing is that beyond, House of Cards is great, but I've seen it already. So
yeah, right.
we need something else to watch.
We need something else to watch. I agree.
That's right. So Netflix has already announced that more programming is going to be coming on in 4K, and other like Amazon, we're working with them and eagerly anticipating new content becoming available later this year. But from LG's perspective, we've always thought that it was a critical part of the whole 4K ecosystem. So we've been working hard to make sure that we're staying current with the latest standards. As I mentioned, all of our 2014 sets already included. Some of the 2013 sets that didn't, we are offering a upgrade kit that is going to be available within the next month or so for people to retrofit the sets that they already bought. So we think we're in as good a place as any on top of that.
Brian?
Tim, if you want more content, buy a Sony. We've got the external drive with dozens and dozens and dozens of 4K movies that are available today. I mean, we sell more 4K movies than anybody in the market today. In addition to being ready to support Netflix and all the other third-party streaming software. But yeah, since we brought 4K to market first, we have been very, very focused on how do we bring more content to the market. And then also keeping an eye on the upscaling, so you can have the ability when you're watching, the soccer game, a football game, you have the ability to be able to watch that in 4K when it's broadcast that way as well too. So.
This brings up the question. Excuse me. I just want to follow up on that. Sony has this server, right? This hard disk server. Samsung, I believe, has one as well. I know that Sony's is proprietary. Can only work with Sony TVs. I'm not sure about Samsung. Is that correct? Currently, that's correct. This was one of the questions I wanted to ask, the two of you at least, and maybe if some of the other manufacturers are thinking about taking this approach of downloadable content onto hard disks rather than streaming. Why make it proprietary? Where is the benefit to the consumer there? Or is, obviously there's a benefit to the manufacturer because you're tied into an ecosystem. But I'm curious about whether this is a good long-term proposition for consumers, or is it a short-term sort of solution for now that will get opened up later? Dan? So
for Samsung, firstly, it's critical. I mean, without good content, people just don't enjoy the TV. So we're working very hard to bring content, not only with a downloadable solution, but also, as you mentioned, streaming, Netflix. We've announced partnerships with Amazon, MGO, Comcast, and DirecTV, just to name a few. So content is important, but more specifically on the server side. At the moment, you're right. It is proprietary. Instant gratification is very important for consumers, and the ability to take that beautiful TV home and enjoy pristine content. But for Samsung, that's not our long-term strategy. Our long-term strategy is to have an open ecosystem, and we're working with industry to create those. And an organization that we're very, very active in is SCSA, Secure Content Storage Association. This organization, the founders are Warner Brothers, Fox Studios, SanDisk, and Western Digital, and there's 30 other companies that are members of this organization. But what this is an open ecosystem where you can purchase content from a retailer of your choice, and you can download that content to your TV or storage device, and share it not only with your TV but with second screen. So that is where we're going. We're going with multiple studios, multiple points of purchase, and media portability. So that's where we want to take this in the short term. Mm-hmm.
So my view in terms of what's going on in the industry is this is a way to kind of jumpstart the availability of 4K content. It's kind of a chicken and egg scenario.
It is.
The content makers don't want to go through the time and expense of filming in 4K, mastering in 4K, all that extra expense if there isn't an installed base of product to take advantage of it. So as manufacturers, working with content providers, we pay to make this content available. But it's really no different than what we saw in the early days of 3D, where manufacturers secured exclusive 3D content so that they could show off the feature on their own sets. But longer term, I think to Dan's point, longer term, I think we all on this panel want there to be an open ecosystem and content freely available across each of our own sets. Mm-hmm.
Ben?
Yeah, I think it's essential for the success of any standard. If you launch a new standard, it is important to have content. Content is king. And if you look at some of the older standards, they have become successful because of the availability of content. So, and proprietary systems work in the beginning to get customers starting, but I think to get UHD really rolling, content has to be made available on a let's say general open way.
Mm-hmm. Scott?
I agree, and I agree with what Dan said. We're also now working towards bringing to market a more open standard. I'm not allowed to say what it is yet, but maybe it's already easy to figure out. but I think a long list of proprietary offerings is bad for the consumer. I think it's bad for the industry. And long-term, short-term has been mentioned. Well, I think long-term sounds like too far away. I think in the very short term, over the next 12 to 18 months, there needs to be more open standards for everyone. I don't think this industry can afford to wait 3 or 5 years for open standards. So it has to happen fast. I think it will happen fast.
Well, that may be, though, the reason why, just to jump in to be the devil's advocate, why maybe these proprietary systems were developed, because they could be done more quickly and get content out there. And as Ben says, content is king. We have to get content out there somehow.
Yeah, it's either that or an advantage, one or the other. I'm not sure which one it was.
Yeah, it's a good promotional opportunity in the short term. But as I think it was Jack who mentioned it earlier, content, while we all agree it's important, the upscaling is so good on these sets that you still get value out of even without content. So I think the content community needs to take note of that, to say that this Ultra HD ship is well on its way, with or without them, and they're going to need to catch up quickly. It's a big opportunity for them to either sell another copy of something they've already sold 3 or 4 times, or just people will enjoy the great upscaling, and they're going to miss out on that. So,
one question I wanted to touch upon here. We saw in one of the slides that LCD TVs obviously totally dominate the market. It's nearly 100%. Plasmas are on their way out. But everyone, certainly on AVS Forum, where I work, is clamoring for OLED. It's like, where's my OLED? I want OLED.
I've got it for you.
Well, okay, yeah, and I'm so glad that you do. But you're not the only one.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. As a matter of fact,
Well, that may be so. My question is, will OLED become an important display technology for UHD in the future? What are the promises and problems with this technology? And will it remain prohibitively expensive?
How about you go for promises and I'll do problems?
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, yeah, there has been a great deal of interest in OLED since it was shown off at CES a couple of years ago. Everybody's been anxiously awaiting.
Oh, it's been more than that. I've been going to CES for 10 years,
well,
20 years.
Big screen OLED.
Big screen, yeah, okay. Okay, yeah.
We introduced a 55-inch OLED last year, and you say prohibitively expensive. It was $15,000. Now,
for a 55-inch TV, that seems prohibitively expensive to me.
Yeah, but my point is now we're getting ready to introduce the successor to that model. That's going to be $49.99. So $5,000 is still expensive for a 55-inch TV. I'll grant you that. However, the prohibitively is gone, at least. And it's coming down. And the other thing is, from LG's standpoint, we look at OLED really the ultimate display with no compromises. So the one missing piece there has been resolution. Right now, it's a 1080p display. We're getting ready also to introduce some larger screens, 65 and 77. We showed both of these at CES that are also Ultra HD. So they'll be available sometime in the third quarter, and we intend to position that as really the best you can get in display, from picture quality, resolution, form factor, sound quality, fully featured with Smart TV, our WebOS platform, 3D, everything that somebody wants. So it's coming quicker than maybe people realize, in a lot more options and at a lot more mainstream price points.
Okay. Scott?
I can't afford his mainstream price points, personally. No, so OLED is an amazing technology. It creates great picture quality. But it's a nascent technology, and we as an industry have a habit of bringing out technologies before they're quite ready for volume production. And I think that is the situation with OLED. It's really not ready for volume production. And so
you're producing
some. But yields are still very low. It makes the pricing very high. There's a lot of R&D still to cover. And I think because of that, they're still selling a lot of 1080p models, which I believe is confusing to the marketplace, because now you're taking a video file and asking him to choose, does he want UHD or does he want OLED? And he shouldn't have to make that choice, actually. It should be, do you want 4K or UHD, or do you want an OLED version of that at the higher end?
Well, and I think, though, you made the good point that LG is in fact going to soon bring into market UHD OLEDs.
Yes, and I think there's a huge future there for OLED. I'm not saying anything negative about technology. I'm just saying now, this year, is not the time for volume OLED, and it's going to take time before it comes down to the right price point. It's going to take, I think, maybe more time than LG would want to say. Maybe some of us others would say it's going to take longer. But I think it's going to take longer. I think there's going to be a time. I think it's going to be very important. I think it's going to be at the higher end of a UHD. But it's just not now. I think still the price points that are out there are prohibitively expensive for the average person.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, maybe for the average person, but I'll say this. Since we introduced it late July or August, we've continually expanded storefronts where it's being sold, and we've been continually satisfying all of the demand that's out there with all of the production that we can make with the demand that's out there. So even at those, quote, prohibitively expensive price points, there's plenty of appetite for it, and we're going to be rolling out the successor, even the 1080p version, nationally across the country within the next 30 days. So not an issue in terms of yield or price right now in the market.
Ben?
We at Bang & Olufsen, we fully see the potential of OLED displays. So it's a very important technology, and we think it has great promise for picture quality. But we also think it's not mature enough, and we always introduce technology once it is matured. And OLED has been just around the corner for the last 5 years, and it still is. And we are really eager to work with this technology, because it's a good technology for a company like Bang & Olufsen. And we are following the developments of the screen manufacturers very closely, and we will be sure to do this technology justice when it's mature.
Well, when you say it's not mature, what exactly are you talking about?
I'm talking about the yield. I'm talking about let's say the lifetime issues that still are an issue. And I know a lot of hard work is being done to overcome that, and that's why we are following it so closely. But we think it's not yet at the maturity level that would justify an implementation for us just yet.
Well, again, I'll just make the point that it's mature enough and the yields are such that we're hitting price points that are selling out our production. And as far as lifetime, with our WRGB technology, we have no uneven aging issues, and the estimated lifespan is no different than plasma. So from our standpoint, it's perfectly reasonable to introduce it at this time and expand the production and distribution.
Glad to hear it.
I am glad to see at least one company pushing ahead with it, because that will spur more innovation, more production. Presumably the kinks will get worked out as we go. And if what you're saying is that you're selling out what you can build, more power to you. That's great. Fantastic. One other question before I get to my final question, and this is something that I've thought about quite a bit, and again, the AVS community has strong opinions about, and that is curved screens. This is another area that we've seen some companies really push hard on curved screens, others not. What's the deal? Why is this? What's the deal here? Why is this feature really based on genuine market research? Or is it, as I've heard some rumors, well, our execs like it?
Maybe
Dan, go ahead. I think Dan should start this one.
We have a few curved TVs, so maybe I'll take a stab at answering that question. So curved has its place. Curved adds immersion. Curved screens.
From one position, though.
Yeah.
It adds immersion from dead center.
Yeah, it actually expands the viewing angles. It reduces reflection It increases your field of view, which directly translates to immersion. So, it's really, analogous to, a panoramic view, right? So it's, a panoramic view is you're seeing more, you're more engaged in the picture quality. So, at Samsung, we offer both technology. We have flat, we have curved, and even just today we've announced additional curved and additional flat, ranging in size from 40 inches up to 110 inches. So there's something for everyone. But you really have to see it to appreciate it, and the people that do see it, they just fall in love with it. It's really a gorgeous TV.
LG is the other company that is working on curved.
Right. We have curved. Our OLEDs are curved for the most part, with one exception. And we did show some curved LED at CES. Now, we chose not to introduce that in the United States. We believe for those people who like the curved form factor, that OLED is certainly a superior viewing experience, because you don't get any of the off-axis issues. You get no color shift and no loss of contrast. If you do choose an LED curved, we also think we'd have an advantage there with our IPS panel, because it's more accurate color, and again, less color shift or distortion off angle. So right now, our strategy for the US at least has been to stick with OLED for the curved form factor, and use our IPS panels on flat Ultra HD sets.
I think Jim, you had a comment here.
Yeah, as a manufacturer who does not have curved televisions in the U.S. market, our viewpoint on it is that it's a design statement. Our polling of retailers, and more importantly consumers, is that some consumers really love it, and others are kind of indifferent or prefer flat, and so it's an additional option really for consumers. From a picture performance point of view, we really don't see any advantage to curved. In fact, I think there's some potential issues in terms of reflections and viewing angles. But putting that aside, our viewpoint is it's a design option, and again, some consumers really like it, and others prefer flat. But being able to offer consumers different options in the end, I think, is good for the industry.
Okay, Ben, and then Scott.
Yeah, I think you have to look at it from a customer perspective. At Bang & Olufsen, we still strongly believe that TV watching and film watching is a social event, and the curved screens actually introduce a sweet spot for viewing, and that is in contradiction with the social event where you sit with multiple people watching the screen. So that's why we are a little bit uncertain about whether this is a good idea or not. But I think the next 6 to 9 months will probably show what the customer think about this.
Scott.
I basically agree with Jim over there. We look at it as very much a design statement, as something that's visibly different. The curve is relatively slight in a lot of cases, and I don't believe that amount of curve is going to create any significant picture quality improvement or degradation. Most probably, I don't think it's going to take away from a social viewing experience, or I don't think it's going to create a better viewing angle either. I think it's very much a design statement. And unfortunately or fortunately, this is an industry that's fast moving, and it is always looking for what's new and what's different. And I think it's out there because it looks different, and so everyone is always trying to have something that looks different. That fills a need for Samsung right now. It may fill a need for others. I don't think it's a good or bad thing. It's just something different.
Well, speaking about something different, let me get to my final question, which is that UHD standards, other than pixel resolution, which is well defined, things like high dynamic range, wide color gamut, greater bit depth, and so on, have yet to be finalized, really, for content creation and display. But these elements, I think, will have even a greater impact on picture quality than pixel resolution, especially at common seating distances. Tim's comments notwithstanding, 49-inch TV at 10 feet. When do you think these factors might be settled upon? How does that affect your plans for future television development? Are we on?
I'll start.
Yeah.
Just one thing about the way you phrased the question. I think HDR very important. I think high color bits, very important. But I don't agree that they're more important than the resolution. I think that's a distinction I would not make.
Okay.
But I do think they're very important. However, the way I see UHD and UHD moving forward is it's not going to stay what it is today. What it is today is the high end, right? It is the premium. So as the high end, you would expect that things like HDR and higher color bits and everything would be put in. But as we move forward, it's not going to be the high end. It's going to be everything, right? Just as we went from SD to HD, and HD became everything. So in the long term, I think you're going to have sets with and without HDR, and with and without high color bits, and because they're going to be segments of your series in your line. And I think at the top end, those things, for the people who want to pay a little extra, who want the best experience, those things are going to be very crucial for the best picture quality, but I don't think they'll be in all UHD. Because I don't think that's what UHD needs to become. It's really, UHD is a replacement for HD in a lot of screen sizes. So it needs to be much wider than that. Wider in screen sizes, wider in feature levels, wider in picture quality levels, and with things like HDR or color bits, I think you're going to see an expansion. That's why when we look at the size of the market, you saw some very disparate numbers in the size of the market. We believe the market's going to move pretty quickly. We're looking at maybe close to 4 million units next year, which is much more than say, CEA said. And a lot of that comes from this wider offering. If we all stay just at the top end, then CEA's number of 1.25 million units is probably more correct, right? But that's not what I think is going to happen to UHD. It's going to expand. So I think the things you're talking about are very important, but not at the full, not all UHD, but at the top of UHD.
All right. Who's next?
Yeah.
Dan.
I think we're
Ben, sorry.
We're talking about changing standards here. And really what we have to think about is that we have to change the whole production chain from camera all the way to the editing and the studio. So those are profound changes to the industry, which is hard-pressed for money as it is. So for the content providers, the content manufacturers, they actually will have to change and to invest a lot in new equipment to make these new standards work as well. And that's a slow process because that industry is large and it will take a lot of time, much more time even than introducing 4K as a new resolution standard. So I think that is going to be a very slow process and it's probably not something that all the parties are going to agree on because standards are difficult to agree upon. Yeah. So I think it's really a tough one.
Yeah.
I would say as manufacturers, we don't necessarily need to wait for standards to be finalized. You know, I think each of us are working on different technology that differentiates our televisions from each other, and you know, technologies such as dynamic range or dimming technologies or bit rates, rich color displays. Those type of technology, I think each of us are working on, and we don't need to wait until standards are finalized. But the result is that consumers will see the benefit right away when they purchase and view our sets.
Mm-hmm. Dan?
Yeah, so you brought up very interesting points, and high dynamic range and wider color bits. These are all demonstrable, and they do make a difference. But when are these enhancements going to come to market? Our answer would be, well, as soon as standards are ready. So, it doesn't make sense for Samsung or any manufacturer to introduce technology just to add more colors that really aren't there in the original signal. So
I agree with you completely.
Faithful reproduction is probably
Absolutely.
first and foremost.
Absolutely. Tim?
And it will come as part of a lineup structure. Scott's right. It's not going to be throughout the whole line, just like when 120 hertz came in and other picture enhancements like that. You're going to build a lineup that will kind of cover the gamut in order to grow the market and also the high end.
Brian?
And working closely with the content creators, right? I mean, that's something that's extremely important to us. And if you take a look at some of the technologies that we've introduced, in particular Triluminous, which is a wider color expansion, and working with actual filmmakers and how to leverage and create content that does actually create new colors that didn't exist before and have a platform to be able to demonstrate that is absolutely in our wheelhouse and where we're focused.
Well, I would love to continue this discussion, but we've run out of time. I want to thank our panelists very much, and thank you for your attention.